Listen, do you ever feel a deep weariness you can't quite name? A silent sorrow that follows you even on your best days? It isn't the exhaustion from a lack of sleep, it's a soul fatigue, a persistent ache that whispers something is profoundly wrong even when your life looks perfectly right. For years, you've been told to be strong, to carry it all with grace. But what if that strength, the very thing everyone praises you for, is actually a heavy cloak, a cloak woven from a profound, unexpressed grief? This isn't the grief of a single dramatic event. The truth is, it's the slow erosion of your authentic self, lost under decades of societal pressures and unspoken expectations. It is the silent cost of being the good girl, the perfect mother, the reliable one who never complains. It's time to understand why silence has become our default and how to finally break free. In this video, we will not tell you to get over it. Instead, we will embark on a quiet excavation. We will give a name to that persistent ache in your soul. We will explore the invisible losses society never taught you to mourn. And we will begin the journey of integrating these profound experiences, transforming them from a source of hidden weariness into a powerful, resilient inner compass that will guide you home to yourself. This journey starts now. Listen, the journey we're on, it begins in a quiet place. A place inside you that you might not even know exists. Think of it as an echo chamber of unexpressed sorrow, a room built brick by brick over decades of silence, and you didn't even realize you were the architect. Once upon a time, you carried the invisible weight of a world that expected everything from you, and every day you tried to deliver. You were taught to be the strong one, the calm in the storm, the one who holds it all together. This wasn't a choice, it was a role handed to you when you were just a girl. And here's the thing about that role, it comes with a heavy cloak, a cloak you were given the first time you were told don't cry. And with each unspoken disappointment, each swallowed truth, each time you put someone else's comfort before your own pain, another small, heavy stone was slipped into the pocket of that cloak. A dream you deferred for your family, a boundary you didn't set with a friend, a promotion you didn't fight for because it wasn't the right time. Stone after stone, year after year, the cloak just got heavier. But here's the really strange part. The world doesn't see the stones. It only sees the cloak. It sees the strength, the competence, the grace. And so society keeps silencing the very feelings that need a voice. You know the words, don't you? You've heard them 1,000 times. Oh, don't be so sensitive. You're just being dramatic. Look on the bright side. You have so much to be grateful for. Just be the bigger person. And each time you heard those words, either from someone else or from the critic inside your own head, the door to that echo chamber closed a little tighter. The sounds of your own authentic feelings, they became muffled, distant. You learned to invalidate your own emotional reality before anyone else could. It became a survival mechanism. Because of that, the toll became cumulative. You see, unacknowledged loss doesn't just disappear. It's like a dripping tap in the basement of your soul. At first, it's just a single drop, a tiny loss you were told wasn't worth grieving. The loss of childhood innocence, the loss of a friendship that quietly faded away, the loss of the woman you might have become if you'd taken that other path. It's not a flood, it's a drip, a constant, quiet drip. Drip, the loss of your own identity inside the role of mother. Drip, the loss of your physical vitality to the demands of caregiving. Drip, the loss of a future you once imagined for yourself.
Each drop seems insignificant, manageable. You can put a bucket under it. You can ignore it for a while. But after 20, 30, 40 years, that quiet drip has filled the entire basement. And that heavy, undefined sadness you feel, that soul fatigue we spoke of, that is the feeling of wading through the cold, deep water of a lifetime of ungrieved losses. It's not one thing, it's everything. It is the cumulative weight of 1,000 tiny deaths of the self that were never mourned, never acknowledged, never even named. So this grief, it has to build up inside us. It has to. But it doesn't just sit there quietly. It has to go somewhere. The strange thing is, it often shows up in ways we would never, ever recognize as grief.
Listen, so where does it go, this ocean of ungrieved loss we carry in the basement of our souls? It doesn't stay there. It can't. The pressure builds, and then one day it finds a way out. But it doesn't come out as tears. Not anymore. The truth is much stranger than that. It puts on a mask. And the first mask it wears is perfection. It becomes a performance, a perfect one. You become the woman who can do it all. The flawlessly curated home, the organic meals on the table by 6, the promotions at work, the check-in calls with your aging mother, the cupcakes for the school bake sale. You become a master of the to-do list. Your schedule is a fortress. Your efficiency is a weapon. You move through your life with a relentless, terrifying competence. People look at you and say, "I don't know how she does it." And in the quietest part of your soul, you don't know either. You just know you can't stop. Because if you stop moving, you might have to feel. This is what modern psychology calls functional depression. It's a very specific kind of grief that has learned to hide in plain sight. It hides behind your productivity. It hides behind your strength. It hides behind your smile. You are running an engine at 1,000 miles an hour on an empty tank. And from the outside, it looks like you're flying. But from the inside, you know the engine is eating itself alive. It's the hum of constant activity that drowns out the drip, drip, drip from the basement. But here's the thing. There is one part of you that cannot be fooled. Your body. The body has no patience for masks. It is ruthlessly, beautifully honest. And when the soul is grieving in silence, the body begins to whisper. Then it speaks, and sometimes it screams. Does this sound familiar? That 3 a.m. wake-up call, a jolt of anxiety for no reason, your heart pounding in the darkness. That is your body screaming. That chronic fatigue, the bone-deep weariness that no amount of coffee or sleep can touch, that is your body screaming. The unexplained aches in your shoulders, your back, your neck, as if you were physically carrying a weight that no one can see, that is your body screaming. We call it burnout. We call it stress. We call it aging. But what if it's none of those things? What if it's simply unwept tears? What if the exhaustion you feel isn't from the laundry or the spreadsheets or the caregiving? What if it's the sheer crushing weight of holding a lifetime of ungrieved losses inside your cells? The body keeps the score. And when we refuse to feel our grief emotionally, the body agrees to carry it for us physically, until it can't anymore. And that leads us to the most devastating cost of all, the final mask that grief wears when it's been ignored for too long. It is the loss of yourself. It's the most subtle and the most heartbreaking of all the manifestations. It's the feeling of being a ghost in your own home, a stranger in your own skin. You are present for everything, but you are not truly there for anything. You go through the motions of your life. You have conversations, you attend meetings, you make dinner, but it's as if you're watching a movie of someone else's life. You look in the mirror, and you see the roles. You see the mother, the wife, the daughter, the professional, but you can't find you. The woman with her own wild desires, her own quirky sense of humor, her own quiet longings. She has become a faded photograph, a distant memory. Your inner compass, the one that tells you what feels right, what brings you joy, what is true for you, it has gone silent. You've spent so long navigating by everyone else's map that you've forgotten how to read your own. You feel lost, adrift, a ship without a rudder, moving in whatever direction the winds of expectation happen to be blowing that day. From a perfect performance to a body in rebellion to a spirit feeling profoundly lost, this is the path of unacknowledged grief. This is the price of silence. So what are they? What are these invisible losses? What did we actually lose along the way that has cost us so dearly? To answer that, we have to go deeper. We have to start naming the ghosts.
Listen. So we must go deeper. We have to start naming the ghosts. Because the strange truth is, you cannot heal a wound you are pretending doesn't exist. And many of these wounds, they have been invisible, even to ourselves. So where does this grief come from? What did we actually lose? The first root is the most subtle. We grieve the invisible losses. These are the losses that society does not give you a funeral for. There are no sympathy cards for this kind of grief. No one brings you a casserole. These are the quiet deaths of potential that happen inside the chambers of your own heart. Think about it. We grieve the loss of our own innocence. The girl you were before the world told you to be cautious, to be cynical, to build walls around your heart. You miss her, don't you? That quiet ache is grief. We grieve the lives we never lived, the path not taken. In another universe, perhaps, there is a version of you who became that painter, who moved to Paris, who never got married, who pursued that PhD. She is not a fantasy. She is a real archetypal energy within your psyche. And when you feel that strange pull, that wistful what if, you're feeling the grief for the parts of you that were sacrificed for the life you chose, especially when the roles that demanded that sacrifice begin to shift, like when the nest becomes empty. That painter you put away to become a mother, she comes knocking on the door of your soul, asking to be seen. And that brings us to the second root. We carry relational grief. This isn't the sharp, sudden grief of a death. This is the grief of the slow fade, the quiet goodbyes that were never spoken. Think of the friendships from your 20s, the ones you swore would last a lifetime. You didn't have a fight, you just drifted. The phone calls became less frequent, the shared jokes no longer landed, and one day you realize you were strangers with a shared past. That quiet pang in your heart when you see their name pop up online, that is unacknowledged grief. We grieve the loss of our idealized parents. The moment you realized they were not the all-knowing protectors you believed to be, but flawed, wounded humans doing the best they could. In that moment, a specific kind of childhood dies, and we rarely give ourselves permission to mourn it. We grieve the loss of the relationship we thought we would have, the fantasy of the perfect marriage, the ever-present partner, the family that always understands. When reality falls short of that fantasy, as it always does, we don't just feel disappointment, we feel a deep, abiding grief for the dream that has died. But we are told to be grateful for what we have, and so we bury that grief in silence. And that silence leads us to the deepest root of all, the one that nourishes all the others. It is the good girl burden. Listen closely. This is perhaps the most important thing you will hear today. From the moment you were a little girl, you were given a script.
And the script was simple. Be nice. Be agreeable. Be selfless. Don't make waves. Don't be too loud, too needy, too angry, too much. And when you followed the script, you were rewarded. You were called a good girl. You received praise. You received approval. You received love. And so you learned at a cellular level that your worth was tied to your ability to please others. And so you began a lifelong performance. You learned to say yes when your entire being screamed no. You learned to swallow your anger and put on a smile. You learned to anticipate everyone else's needs before you even allowed yourself to know your own. But here is the brutal truth that no one ever tells the good girl. Every time you betray your own needs to please someone else, you create a tiny, invisible loss. You are grieving the loss of your own voice. You are grieving the loss of your own boundaries. You are grieving the loss of your authentic self who is being sacrificed piece by piece on the altar of being liked. So you see, this weariness, this soul fatigue, it is not a mystery. It is the logical conclusion of a lifetime of ungrieved losses. It is the weight of the innocent girl, the unlived life, the faded friendships, and the silenced self, all piled on top of each other in the basement of your soul. We have named them. We have seen them. But the most important question remains. What do we do now? How do we begin to heal? That is the path forward.
Listen, we have walked through the basement. We have named the ghosts, the loss of innocence, the unlived lives, the faded friendships, the good girl burden. So what now? The question hangs in the air, heavy and real. It's one thing to understand the wound. It's another thing entirely to begin to heal it. The path forward is not a grand, dramatic leap. It is a series of small, quiet, courageous steps. It is a gentle reclamation of your own emotional landscape. And it begins today. The first step, the most powerful one, is something you can do the moment this video ends. It is the power of naming. It is the act of taking what is a vague, heavy fog inside you and giving it a name, on paper, for your eyes only. You see, silence is where this grief gets its power. When you write it down, you break the spell. You are telling your soul, I see you. Your loss was real. It mattered. You don't need a fancy journal. Just take a piece of paper and write one sentence. Just one. Start with the words, I grieve, and then you finish it. I grieve the artist I never allowed myself to be. I grieve the friendship that I let die. I grieve the woman I was before I became a mother. Do not judge the words. Do not analyze them. Just let them be. This single act is a revolution. It is the first time you are validating your own story without asking for anyone else's permission. Once you have named a piece of your grief, you move to the second step. This is the gentle rebellion. For decades, the good girl inside you has been an expert at self-abandonment. Her job was to keep the peace, to make everyone comfortable, even at the cost of your own soul. The gentle rebellion is the act of slowly, kindly choosing yourself. It begins with the most powerful tool you possess, the word no. For the good girl, no feels like a weapon. It feels dangerous, unkind. But here is the truth you must learn. Your no to someone else is often a profound yes to yourself. Your gentle rebellion doesn't have to be a shout. It can be a whisper. It might look like saying, I can't make it to that dinner. I need a quiet night in. It might sound like, I can't take on that extra project right now. My plate is full. It might feel like turning off your phone for an hour just to sit with a cup of tea and hear your own thoughts. Each time you set a small boundary, each time you honor your own need for rest or solitude, you are taking back a piece of the emotional territory you gave away. You are telling the world, and more importantly, telling yourself, that your needs are valid, that your energy is finite and sacred. And that leads to the third step. This work cannot and should not be done alone. The final step is to find your community. Your grief was born in the silence of invalidation. Its healing must happen in the safety of witnesses. You need to find at least one person in your life with whom you can share a piece of your story, who will not try to fix you, who will not tell you to look on the bright side, but who will simply look at you and say the two most healing words in the English language: "Me too." This isn't about finding a crowd. It's about finding your council of women. It might be a therapist. It might be a support group. It might be a book club. It might be that one old friend who has always truly seen you. You are looking for the places and people where your story is met not with judgment, but with recognition, where your tears are not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be honored. Naming your losses, gently rebelling against the good girl, and finding your community. These are not easy steps. They are acts of profound courage, but they are the way out of the basement. This is how we begin to reclaim the landscape. But how do we live there? How do we make this reclaimed territory our new home and learn to trust the guidance of our own inner compass again? That is the final piece of our journey together. Listen, so we have found the path forward, naming the loss, the gentle rebellion, finding your community. But how do we live in this reclaimed territory? The strange truth is, the goal is not to get over your grief. Society sells us this lie, that healing is a finish line you cross, after which the pain is gone forever. But that is not how the soul works. True healing, the kind that lasts, is not about erasing the past. It is about integration. Imagine your life is a vast, intricate tapestry. For years, you were told that the dark threads of grief, loss, and disappointment were ugly mistakes that needed to be cut out. But what if those dark threads are precisely what give the tapestry its depth, its contrast, its profound beauty? Integration is the act of consciously weaving those threads back in. You are not defined by your grief, but you are deepened by it. The pain is no longer a source of weariness that pulls you under. It becomes a part of your wisdom. It becomes the bedrock upon which you build a more authentic life. And as you integrate, something remarkable begins to happen. A forgotten sense begins to stir. Your inner compass, the one that went silent for so long, it starts to whisper again. At first, you might not trust it. It will feel foreign. When you're making a decision, you will feel a quiet pull in your gut, a subtle yes or a firm no that rises up before your logical mind has a chance to argue. That is your intuition. That is your reclaimed self speaking to you in its native tongue. Your job now is not to force it, but to listen. To create small pockets of silence in your day where you can hear its whispers. When you're about to say yes out of habit, pause, breathe, listen. Is there a quiet no beneath the noise? Honor it. That is how you recalibrate your compass, one small, true choice at a time. And this journey, it is not just for you. This is the legacy of healing.
When you give yourself permission to acknowledge your own grief, you break a generational curse of silence. You teach your daughters, your sons, your friends, and your community that it is safe to feel, that it is human to grieve, that our wounds do not have to be our end, they can be our becoming. Your story of healing becomes a quiet permission slip for every other woman who is still drowning in the silence. So if you have felt this silent sorrow stirring within you during our time together, I invite you to make a quiet commitment. Take that first step we spoke of. Find a piece of paper and write down one invisible loss you have never allowed yourself to mourn. If you feel called, share in the comments the words, "I am listening," not for me, but for yourself, a declaration that you are finally ready to listen to the whispers of your own soul. This excavation is just the beginning. After we have unearthed our grief, we often have to face the stories we tell ourselves about our lives, especially the stories of failure. If you wish to continue this journey, in the next video, we will explore the profound wisdom of disappointment and discover why the dreams that died were perhaps the most sacred invitations of all. Thank you for your courage.